Building a portfolio with Fidelity Basket Portfolios is kind of like making a sandwich. It's as simple as picking your stocks and ETFs, sort of like your meats and other topics, and managing it as one big, juicy investment. Now that's pretty good. Learn more at fidelity.com/baskets. Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC. Member NYSE SIPC.
Hot Take is brought to you by Cozy Earth. Mary, did you have any big buying binges during the height of the pandemic, like on lockdown? Were there things that you particularly were ordering online?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely. I bought a lot of lipstick in the very early days of the pandemic. And let me tell you, I regret the fuck out of that because of all the things to buy, that was the most useless because now you can't wear it without looking like the Joker.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Well, I bought only sheets and blankets. I don't know why. I was like in full nesting, like soft bedding mode. And my absolute favorite after trying like every single brand was Cozy Earth. So I was very excited.
This is a flex. This is a flex.
Cozy Earth is made using the finest premium viscose from highly sustainable bamboo. Their bedding is naturally temperature regulating and you can sleep comfy on it all year round. Bamboo, as we have talked about previously on this podcast, is super sustainable. It's like grass. So, you know, you can cut it and use it and it doesn't really do much to the surrounding area. They also have a loungewear collection. This was the other thing that I bought during the pandemic was a lot of loungewear.
Just rub it in.
No,
just rub it in.
I did not know that Cozy Earth made loungewear at that point, or I would have bought theirs too, because their bamboo fabric is super, super, super soft. So I can only imagine that wearing it around in pajamas or joggers or t-shirts would feel amazing. You can check out their premium plush and waffle bath towels too. I swear to God, I like pretty much everything I want to buy is Cozy Earth. Plus, every Cozy Earth bedding item comes in a beautiful reusable canvas bag, which is great because most of the time sheets come in those weird little like too tiny sacks, you know, if anything. So I love that you can actually use the bag it comes in for groceries and whatever else.
Which I have done.
You don't. I have too, and also if you give them as a gift, that means you don't have to deal with gift wrapping. So.
Oh, I'm not giving anybody these sheets for gifts. They're for me.
Listeners can save 40%. That's 40% right now at Cozy Earth. Hurry up. This is a holiday offer that ends soon. Go to cozyearth.com/hot and be sure to enter hot at checkout to save 40%. That's cozyearth.com/hot. cozyearth.com/hot.
Hey, hotcakes, we are planning a mailbag episode, but first we need a bag full of mail. So we need questions from you. Send your questions to hottake@crooked.com. That's hottake@crooked.com. And remember, that's just for questions. Please continue to send all hate mail to Brian Kahn. That's BKAHN @protocol.com.
That's right. And you can send us anything. Questions about
policy,
who's taller, actually.
It's me.
Movies, TV shows, politics, movement stuff.
Mm-hmm. What we have for breakfast.
Yeah, whatever. Our cats.
Oh, right, because you have multiple cats now.
Yeah. Yes, I do. Anything you want. Send it. If we don't know the answer and we want to include your question, we'll at least try to figure out the answers. So yeah, don't be shy. If you want to be anonymous, you can note that in your email too.
Send us your questions. We will answer them to the best of our ability. Amy, what's your social security number?
No.
Okay,
hottake@crooked.com. Send them in. Hey, hot cakes. Welcome to Hot Take. I'm Amy Westervelt.
And I'm Marianne Hegler. and it is time to talk about the midterm. Amy, how was your election night?
I really didn't even look at it last night because I just thought, well, we're not really going to know much until the morning anyway. Why extend the worry and pain? And I have to say it was nice to wake up to a bunch of headlines saying, oh, the red wave that was predicted didn't happen. So
you know what good. Is not an appealing visual? A red wave.
Yes, I know. It's so gross. Ugh.
I'm either thinking of blood or Hawaiian Punch, neither of which are things I necessarily want in my life.
Neither is appealing. No.
Yeah. I didn't watch the returns come in play by play either. I was kind of like just processing the weight of voting for the first time in the South. And like actual slavery was on the ballot.
Unreal.
Which is, you know, this is a topic for another day, but the way that ballot initiative was worded was extremely, extremely confusing here in Louisiana. And so the vote didn't go the way folks wanted it to go. Processing that. But let's talk about the fun part. What were your snacks on election night?
I have this new obsession they're called Japanese peanuts. Never saw them when I was in Japan, but they're like really popular in Costa Rica. And I think you can get them in the US too. They're coated with this like kind of salty, slightly spicy, but not too spicy, crunchy coating. Ugh, I'm obsessed. Just popping those things constantly.
We should see if we can get them to sponsor the show.
Yes.
I don't even know if I can call what I did last night snacking. I think I was just like binging. I had like this new cold brew coconut boba ice cream from Trader Joe's.
Yum.
And I almost ate the entire container. I had these rice mochis from Trader Joe's that I'm obsessed with because on Monday night there was a Saints game and I made a run to Trader Joe's and it was empty. And
nice.
I thought I was just going to go pick up a couple of snacks. When I tell you that cart was very heavy by the time I made it to the front. There's something about Trader Joe's that brings out the early pandemic hoarder in me. But I was grateful for it last night because I had a lot of feelings and I ate every single one of them. But I think it's time, Amy, unfortunately.
Yeah, we got to talk about the big thing that was on the ballot this time, right? It's time to talk about climate.
All right, Amy, what happened last night?
The red wave did not arrive as predicted. So there was this huge amount of polling coverage ahead of the elections that was like the Democrats are just going to get absolutely trounced in this election by Republicans. And that did not happen, which is very, very good news for climate policy and lots of other things too.
I think we should clarify that we are recording this the morning after the midterms last night. And so by the time this comes out on Friday, some races may have been called that are not called right now. But we are not in the business of predicting the future. So we're just not even going to do that.
That's right. That's right. And it does still look likely that Republicans will gain control of the House.
Boo.
I know. What is very much up for debate and will probably still be unknown by the time this comes out on Friday is whether Democrats will hold on to the Senate. And that makes a very, very big difference when we're talking about all kinds of policy, but especially climate policy, because, that's where the government, approves cabinet positions and a lot of appropriation stuff kind of relies on the Senate. And of course, judicial appointments and confirmations go through the Senate. So we'll be kind of
biting our nails until we know what happens
Yeah.
there.
But let's talk
Yeah.
about some definitely good news. So
Yeah.
John Fetterman won in Pennsylvania.
That's right. Yeah,
there will be no Senator Oz.
Thank God. Thank God. And importantly, Josh Shapiro also won for governor there. So that is a flip of the governorship there from Republican to Democrat. And that is 2 Democrats who did not fanboy fracking and won their fucking races. So I hope we can put that myth to rest.
I feel like there's a lesson there.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Seems like accountability is a winning strategy.
That's right. That's right. I actually think that was such a smart strategy there. And I hope it's one that gets replicated, that in both of those cases, they really focused on accountability for really unethical practices in the industry. So they didn't, they didn't need to say, let's ban fracking or let's do this or do that. Like they were able to kind of, go with that message, and it worked. So let's do more of that maybe. Another really interesting win in Florida is Maxwell Alejandro Frost, who is from Florida, and he is the first Gen Z representative to be voted in. He ran on a platform that was pro-environmental justice and Green New Deal, pro-public transit, all that stuff. Also big nod to Gen Z in general in this election. Most of the pundits who are looking at this race are saying if Gen Z voters hadn't turned out the way they did, it really would have been a red wave. So I think an important thing for Democrats to know going into the general election in 2024, that young voters are turning out. And for the most part, Gen Z is voting very, very progressive.
Yeah. And another thing that I think is important for Democratic leadership to kind of process is that the millennials are not the kids anymore. Like there seemed to be so much focus on
millennials are 40 now, guys. Come on.
Let me tell you, we are waking up to cups of Metamucil and slathering on BioFreeze. All right, like it's real over here. So messaging to us like we're the kids is like I don't know what the 2008 hell is going on there. They're new kids on the block, quite literally. And the new kids on the block have no idea who new kids on the block were.
It's true. It's true. It's true. The other really good news is both Cori Bush and Ilhan Omar got reelected. So I didn't even know that either of them were up for reelection, to be honest. I didn't even think about it, but I'm very glad they both won.
Yes, I'm really, really excited about Cori and Ilhan. I mean, they've been such strong climate advocates in the Congress. And I'm really glad that they're going to be able to stay there. I know that Warnock and his race is not all the way called, but it's really, really close. And I'm really hoping we get to keep Warnock in the Senate because I don't know if I'm ready to fix my mouth to say Senator Herschel Walker.
Oh, God.
That would be a really scary day.
I'm seeing a lot of people predict that that's going to be a runoff. And if that happens, historically, the Dem candidate does better. And I think that would likely be the case here. Of course, there are no crystal ball. But man, it'd be nice if he could just win it without a runoff. Save us from once again worrying about Georgia for a month.
I know. And I want Herschel Walker to join the slate of other MAGA candidates that have lost terribly.
Yes.
Or bigly, as you might say.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, that also seemed like kind of a big trend in these midterms, was that in a lot of cases, the fringiest of the Trump candidates did not do well. So Dr. Oz, we just talked about Pennsylvania, did not win Pennsylvania, thank God. Blake Masters in Arizona, who was really heavily funded by a lot of the big Republican funders, did not win, did not even really get close in Arizona. Like that was not a narrow race.
Yeah, and we've already talked about Dr. Oz, but I have to say, like, the thing is, like, they can lose the election, but they're never going to believe that they've lost the election.
That's
and
right.
Their supporters are
Mhm.
armed and crazy.
That's
So
right.
I'm really worried, like, elections aren't over anymore. They're
That's
never over.
true. That's true. And actually, speaking of which, I just saw this morning Ben Collins was saying that the right wing folks are already trying to spread the rumor that there were election shenanigans happening in Arizona. So that seems to be where they
That
are
seems
targeting all of the, false election fraud talk is targeted at Arizona, which is interesting because, I would have thought you'd see it around Pennsylvania, but it seems to be very focused on Arizona. And I can only assume that is probably going to focus on the governor race, which is a lot closer than the Senate race was. So that one is Carrie Lake. And I think I kind of get the sense that Republicans, or at least like the sort of stop the steal Trumpy Republicans, are looking at Arizona as the place that they're going to mess with the general election in 2024. And
It
that
seems
having,
right for it.
yeah, and having a Republican governor is kind of key to that.
Yeah.
Uh, actually, like a friend of mine was reminding me this morning to look at the Secretary of State races, because that position at the state level is the person that can move to overturn election results. And so, yeah, there are close races in Arizona and Nevada on that front too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so Amy, you wrote an article last week in The Guardian about climate change being on the ballot, which it definitely was, even if people didn't say it directly. And you mentioned a whole bunch of different races to watch, including attorneys general and some of these other offices like the Texas Railroad Commission that we don't often think about. I know we're going to talk more about attorneys general with our next guest that I won't spoil for the listeners, but let's talk a little bit about what happened there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the big news is like Texas still hasn't had a non-Republican, statewide official elected going on 25 years now. None of those races were even close. Like Ken Paxton is still Attorney General. Wayne Christian is still Texas Railroad Commissioner. Greg Abbott is still governor, and by a large margin too. So.
Yeah. I saw that Greg Abbott actually won Uvalde.
Yeah.
Which is just, that's so sad to me. That is so sad. And the thing is, so your article, and I know we're going to talk more about these races, but your article ends posing the question about why aren't more candidates running on accountability?
Yeah.
I mean, I think Beto did to a good degree, but not enough people are talking about accountability, and we're up against people who are just straight up lying. Lying. It's so much easier to lie than it is to tell the truth about so many of these things.
Yes.
Because the truth is complicated. I mean, it's really complicated, but it is very clear who needs to be held accountable. So that's the part to talk about.
Yeah. You know what strikes me too is like I was thinking about this with respect to a lot of the Western states, because I've had this experience a lot in the last year or so where I've been working on stories about or just stories that include people who are very very much a particular archetype in the West. And I don't think that people outside of the West understand this personality type. And it's basically libertarian, but not ideological. It's all about sort of personality and authenticity and not really so much about politics. And I keep seeing Democrats try to run really vanilla centrist Dems in places like Arizona and Nevada and Colorado and all these places. And I'm like, no. Like, you think that the right wing there is so extreme that they would never, ever look at a far left progressive. But what you're missing is that actually, like, that a far left progressive is way more attractive to a Western libertarian than like a centrist Dem would be. And honestly, I was thinking about it with the West, but I kind of see it in some of these other races too. Like even in Pennsylvania, where I think a big part of what helped Fetterman was that he could say, look at this guy, he's not even from here. Like he doesn't even go here,
Right.
And that is actually like a really big message in a lot of these states. It's like people want someone who is from where they're from, is like familiar with what's important to people in that area, and can kind of like talk the talk with them. And like, I don't know. I just don't get like why that's not being kind of embraced more. And like very much the story of like this rich guy from out of state can't come in here and tell us what to do.
Right. Right.
Like,
I mean, this might be an inappropriate metaphor given the West, but you kind of gotta fight fire with fire.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Exactly. It's like you can't tackle like some, I don't know, like some, I don't know. Yeah, you can't like tackle like a cowboy with an accountant.
That's a very good point. I was recently watching a documentary about Ronald Reagan and his like rise to power.
Yes.
Like he was fucking bonkers. Like he went after, on the anti-crime, which was really anti-Black Panther platform really, really hard when he ran for governor of California. Yeah. And that's like, I don't know. It's like people want a fighter. The fascists want a fighter, and so do the progressives. Like, I want someone who is actually going to fight for my values and not, just kind of passively leave it in the road. Sorry, that wasn't eloquent.
Totally. No, and that's where I feel like the accountability stuff comes in a lot too, where it's like, I think I don't know. I'm just like, I feel like, I don't know. I just feel like, and again, we saw this in Pennsylvania. I feel like kind of being able to just like break it down to bad guys and good guys and point out like who's fucking people over is really appealing, and like, I don't understand why we're not doing that more. The Ohio race is another really good example, right? Like, I'm just like, oh my God, if the Dems had someone with even a tiny bit of personality who could have really gone after J.D. Vance as this guy that like Peter Thiel paid for to be in Ohio, like, and I'm like, I feel like that would have been a really great strategy, but he's so wishy-washy and so like, I don't know. I'm like, who is this guy? We have no idea,
So we're going to have Senator J.D. Vance.
Yes, we are.
How are we going to, like, it took a lot. I had to hold my breath to be able to say that out loud.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I know. That's a big bummer. The other one that we're still waiting to hear on is Wisconsin, which it would be huge if Mandela Barnes could oust Ron Johnson there. But it's looking close and maybe leaning red. Same with Nevada. Nevada's leaning Republican, but in Arizona, it's looking very good for Democrats. So I don't know. It's really, it's tough to know. I think like the big thing that is important for people to understand on climate is just, what can happen if Republicans lock up both the House and the Senate, and what can happen if they just get the House. And like the answer on all of that is really like jamming up climate policy. So, they have said that they want to, because keep in mind, like gas prices are a big, talking point right now. And Republicans have been saying that if they get power, that they are going to do everything they can to spur domestic fossil fuel production. So that's not good news. Although in saying that, like Biden hasn't exactly slowed it down. So
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But they would really just like rip the earth out from underneath us. So like there's a difference.
Yeah.
But you know what's a good reason to need gas in your tank?
What?
When you have to evacuate from a fucking fire or a hurricane or a flood. So
True.
it might get cheaper, but you're going to need a shit ton more of it.
I know. It's awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
So,
it is true.
I mean, in other depressing news, John Kennedy is going back to the Senate to represent Louisiana. You know, I don't think anybody was really expecting the Democrats to win here in Louisiana. But, you know, there were two, I talked about this before, there were two people running as Democrats in this race. There's Gary Chambers, who is the one who had an environmental justice platform, so you can guess who I voted for, and Luke Mixon. And so I think what is interesting about this race, neither one of them got close, right? So Gary Chambers came in at 17.8, Luke Mixon came in at 13.2%. And I think what a lot of people might say is like, oh, if there hadn't been two of them running, then they would have beat him. And like by those numbers, you can tell they wouldn't have. However, Gary Chambers did do better by what I would call a significant amount. So he got
That's a significant amount. Yeah.
He got 5%. I'm not good at math. Whatever.
I feel like anything above 1% people in politics think of as like a big difference, you know? So I feel like, that's like a noticeable difference.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I
feel
something.
Like, what you see over and over again in these results is that the folks who are playing it safe and kind of, you know, technically Democrat, but vote for a bunch of Republican policies and that kind of thing, like they did not do well in this midterms. I can't think of a single one where it's like, the middle of the road, not rocking the boat candidate won.
Yeah. No country for centrist Dems. But to go back to the fun part of the night, let's talk more about some snacks. So Amy, what's a sea monster's favorite snack?
Learning through play starts with Lego Duplo. With Lego Duplo, toddlers can develop real-life skills while having fun with colorful bricks made just for them. Large, easy to grip, and safe to explore. When children express themselves with Lego Duplo, they build patience, problem-solving, and empathy. See your child learn perseverance and self-expression with everything they imagine and create. Visit lego.com/preschool to learn more.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
A sea monster's favorite snack. Seaweed?
Would that be funny, though? No, it's chips and dip.
Chips and dip. Oh, nice. I like it.
Yeah,
I like it.
Thank you. But yeah, building off of what we were just saying about Gary Chambers, I vented to you over text about this, but there was an article that came out in The Atlantic that pissed me the entire hell off about the Democratic obsession with superstar losers, which is what they call it. And they were talking about Beto and Stacey Abrams, who have run races that cost a lot of money and, according to this author, always lose, right? And, okay, I've got a lot of problems with this. Chief among them, Stacey Abrams did not lose her first race for governor. She actually won it. And this
right.
article just kind of glosses over the injustices and voter suppression and all of the things that actually kept her from taking office, as though like, that's just water under the bridge. But she lost, and why do we keep giving her money? So that was really upsetting to me. But the main part that was like really upsetting is that these are both two Southern candidates. Okay.
Right.
And like
how do you make that argument in the context of complete lack of investment in the South? Like, I just.
For a generation, at least a generation. The Democrats have just completely ceded the South to the Republicans and said, we're going to lose. It's not worth even trying. So we're just going to focus on the states where we win. And then you come back after Trump gets elected, try to run some races. And now it's like, well, if we didn't win, then fuck it.
Exactly.
Which, like, I don't understand the logic of that. I don't understand the strategy of that. And there have been some pretty massive wins in the South in the Trump era. Remember Doug Jones being elected senator of Alabama?
That's right.
Because I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like even getting close after having no ground game in this region since the 60s, really.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I will remind people yet again that it was Black Southerners that made the Democratic Party a progressive party. That's how it happened. It was Fannie Lou Hamer and, you know, her coalition of people that did that. So you can't just all of a sudden come back and expect these wins to happen immediately. And also, you can't expect to win in the South without addressing gerrymandering and voter suppression.
Exactly.
Fun fact. You know how long you get to be in the voting booth in Louisiana?
How long?
6 minutes.
Are you fucking kidding me? They have a time limit on...
There's a time limit and it's strict.
Wow.
I almost ran into it because there were also several ballot measures that were worded in extremely circuitous language, including the one on slavery that I was talking about earlier. And Amy, I am a trained policy editor, and I had to read these things several times to make sure I knew what I was reading.
That is crazy
and you get
to me.
6 minutes. That's voter suppression too.
That very much is, yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so it's not a simple ballot. And they make those ballot measures complicated for a reason. So anyway, you can't just like abandon a place for that long and then expect to come back in and win. And if that candidate doesn't win, then fuck that candidate.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm seeing this about Texas a lot too.
Yeah.
Not just with respect to Beto, but also like, you know, Ken Paxton kept the attorney general position. All of the Texas elections were Republican wins by like, I think it's fair to say a landslide. And there again, it's like, oh, see, you know, Democrats are just never going to win Texas. Why do we even bother? And I'm like, have you been bothering? Doesn't seem like you have.
What kind of spoiled brat shit is that? Yeah. And the article doesn't come up with any other solutions other than stop running these candidates. Well, if we don't run Stacey Abrams in Georgia for governor, who else should we have run?
Right. What's the suggestion?
Who else should we have run for governor in Texas other than Beto? They have the ground game. They have the name recognition. And the argument is though, like, well, they're popular outside of their states, but that doesn't make them popular in their states. Beto came damn close when he ran for senator.
That's right. He actually did. He did. And he held on, even this time, he held on to almost all of the border counties, which is very interesting because the main thing that all the Texas Republicans run on, right, is border security and how much it's needed. But like, you know, that's not playing that well in the border counties, apparently, you know? So anyway, yeah, I don't know. To me, it's like, I look at those races and I think, wow, you know, in the first governor race, like Stacey Abrams won that race despite all of the voter suppression and gerrymandering and whatever. Imagine what she could do with some actual support. And Beto, like he actually was a serious challenger for Senate. Like imagine what he could do with if like this if Democrats had been investing in this state all along. Like, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's like that vacuum has not just allowed those states to, become solidly red in national elections. It's also allowed them to become really like kind of legal and policy machines for the Republican Party. Like the way that the Texas judicial system just tees up constitutional challenges is like, it's pretty remarkable,
Right.
So yeah, I don't know.
I also want to emphasize that chronic disinvestment in the region has been a form of voter suppression in and of itself, because we've told voters in these states for decades, your vote doesn't matter, your vote doesn't matter, your vote doesn't matter.
That's right.
It's difficult to get enthusiastic again after all of that.
That's right. That's right. All right. We're going to take a quick break and come back and talk about the other folks who were investing in all kinds of races. Not any of the parties, but some American billionaires.
Wait. But before we go on break, why wouldn't the shrimp share his snacks?
Why wouldn't the shrimp share his snacks? I don't know.
Because he was shellfish.
I was trying to think of a shrimp version of stingy, and I couldn't get there. I was so close.
Were you?
Hot Take is brought to you by Bite. Mary, I know that you don't live with any small humans or large men, but if you did, let me tell you what you might find on your countertops. Disgusting tubes of toothpaste just spooging out everywhere all the time. Just a little window into family life. My solution has been Bite toothpaste. I love these things. Like, on top of the fact that I really like how they taste. They're these tiny little mint-sized things that you pop into your mouth, you bite it, and it kind of creates a toothpaste in your mouth. But more importantly than that, I like the way they look, and I like that they don't come in plastic tubes. They come in these cute little glass jars. They don't make a mess. They sit on your counter, and it's like, honestly, dramatically improved my life.
Would you say that they're filling?
No, I don't think so.
But you have been eating them.
I do pop them occasionally, like when I feel like I'm worried about my breath. Way better than, like, I used to do that with toothpaste. I would just like dab some toothpaste on my finger and like finger brush my teeth, which is totally ineffective. Unlike the Bite pellets, which actually work. Obviously, because they come in refillable glass jars instead of plastic tubes, they're better for the planet as well. They also don't include all of the harsh chemicals, artificial flavors, and preservatives that are usually in toothpaste. So they're better for us as well. And today, Bite is offering our listeners 20% off their first order. Go to trybite.com/hottake. That's TRYBITE.com/hottake. Or you can use the code HOTTAKE at checkout to claim this deal. That's trybite.com/hottake.
Hot Take is brought to you by Athletic Greens. As our listeners know, I started taking AG1 because I read on the package that it had vegan collagen in it. And I'm always looking for collagen out here.
Yes.
Like, not only for the skincare benefits, but it keeps your joints lubricated and a bitch is getting old. So,
that's true. Yeah. It is actually really good for that. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Not trying to have my joints lock up in the middle of a zombie apocalypse.
True.
That would be a bad scene. So I take it often in the morning, just a little bit of water, put it in a little shaker, shake it up. And I've been trying to go to early morning yoga classes. And it's a great way to get a little bit of nutrition and some hydration before you go to a hot yoga class at 6:15 in the morning like a maniac.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then you're not getting too full. You're not like drinking caffeine and getting too jittery.
You're not drinking coffee and dehydrating yourself, which is what I used to do. It's not the move.
Yeah.
With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole foods, source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. The special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all the things. It is lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. That is a lot of freedom. Your subscription comes with a year's supply of vitamin D, which is so important to add in these winter months when we don't get as much sunlight. I know you love that vitamin D supplement.
I do.
So right now it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is go to athleticgreens.com/hottake. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/hottake to take ownership of your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
All right.
All right, let's talk about what does all of this mean. So what does it mean if Democrats are looking to lose control of the House? What does that mean for climate?
It means really just a giant slowdown of everything. I think it means that they will try to block the implementation of climate policy as long as they can. They will investigate all kinds of things. Like, for example, I could see them doing a bunch of probes at the EPA, which will hamstring that agency from actually, getting on with the business of regulating air pollution and implementing all of the various things they're supposed to be doing to incentivize the transition to electricity. So, I think that that's kind of the major one in the House. They will do everything they can to try to open up more land for drilling, to incentivize more domestic oil production. You definitely won't be seeing any more climate disinformation hearings in the House.
Oh, no?
I think they have said that they want to investigate Biden. So I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot about how, I don't know, Hunter Biden's laptop and shit in the next couple years. If they control the Senate, that becomes an even bigger issue, I think, because they could also hold up a lot of cabinet appointments and judicial confirmations and things like that. So, it's not great. I also think, there's this like obscure administrative law that comes up, I don't know, almost every 4 years now, it seems like, where Congress, if Biden loses in 2024 and there's a Republican president, there is a period of time where Congress can roll back any kind of policies that were put in place in like the last, 6 months or so of that presidency. So there's some concern that Republicans in Congress will try to slow down policymaking so much that it gets pushed into that window. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are all of like the main things. I mean, the sort of good news, I guess, if you could call it that, is like the IRA is already passed.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, and that was really more of an appropriations bill than like a policy bill necessarily. So like that money has been,
yeah, you and Rihanna talked about that.
Yeah, exactly. So that stuff is reasonably safe from the House. Although I do think that, there are ways that Republicans could sort of slow down some of the spending. Some of the spending that was approved there. But yeah, basically just like a sort of grinding to the halt of any climate policy and a move to try to incentivize oil and gas production. Now, that said, as I've said like 10 times now, the entire reason that oil companies are not producing more oil and gas at the moment has nothing to do with Congress or Biden. It has to do with financials and their own financial decision making. So, even if Republicans try to, quote unquote, support domestic oil production, that decision is ultimately up to the oil companies, and they will continue to make decisions that will pay back to their shareholders and enable stock buybacks, and not necessarily lower the price of gas. So, it's still kind of foggy, I would say, what's going to happen there.
Yeah. And as for the Senate, is it at all possible to get to a place where Joe Manchin is no longer king of the world?
Oh, God.
With this election?
I wish, man. I really wish. Right now, it's not looking good because Nevada is looking like it will almost definitely go Republican. Arizona is looking like it will almost definitely go Democrat. And then you've got kind of Georgia in the middle, right? So you're not going to get like a filibuster-proof majority on either side. So at least there's that. But yeah, Joe Manchin is still going to retain his kingmaker status, unfortunately.
What do you think are the odds of John Fetterman bullying the shit out of him, though?
I think that Joe Manchin could be scared of Fetterman. I feel like he's a big guy.
He's borderline a Yeti.
He's like enormous, and he's kind of tough looking in general too. So maybe that's the thing. Actually, it'll be very interesting to see how I don't know, just how things play out with really, I think, a growing number of progressives in Congress. And God, I hope it means that we'll see some changes in 2024 too. I really hope that this whole like punching left thing will stop.
Punch to the center, guys.
Yeah.
I just saw on Twitter someone said that John Fetterman looked like if a union was a person.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's maybe the best description I've ever heard of him. Very, very good. Yeah.
Pretty accurate. Yeah. Pretty accurate.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the other people who got involved financially in this race. We're talking about billionaires, Mary.
Now it's time for a little segment we like to call Billionaire Burn! A Billionaire Burn!
This is like a mega billionaire burn.
A MAGA billionaire burn. Mega.
Yes. Mega billionaire burn.
Amazing.
Yeah. There were some serious mega donors showing up in this election. So apparently this midterm election was as heavily influenced by billionaires as any U.S. election to date. So they showed up in a big way. Thankfully, so did Gen Z voters, but it's pretty unfair for them to have to go up against the nation's billionaires.
I mean, seriously. They have not had time to become a thousandaire, let alone a billionaire.
Yeah. American billionaires spent at least $880 million on the U.S. midterm elections this cycle. 18 of the top 25 donors were Republicans. They outspent Democrats by $200 million. Yeah, that's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. We've got George Soros on our side, but they've got 10 guys on there.
I mean, seriously. And also, I will point out that the right does a way better job at demonizing the billionaires who support progressive policy than we have at demonizing theirs, right? We both listen to the Knowledge Fight podcast. And which is the only way I can come into contact with Alex Jones. And he talks about George Soros constantly. And Klaus Schwab, who I'm not even gonna lie, I don't really know who that is. But he puts names to the people that he claims are behind the scenes on the left. We don't do that with theirs. So let's talk about these
We're
motherfuckers.
gonna do it right now.
Yeah, let's do it.
That's right.
Let's do it.
That's right. All right. So first of all, Ronald Lauder, an heir of the Estee Lauder cosmetic fortune.
You
Estee
are
Lauder?
fucking lying to me.
Lauder? Yes. Yep. Estee Lauder.
They own a shit ton of makeup. They own Bubble and Bumble.
That's right. That's right. They made my grandma's favorite perfume and apparently a shitty billionaire as well.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah. All right, I'm bracing.
So Ronald gave at least $11 million to Lee Zeldin, who was the Trump-backed Republican candidate for New York governor. He still lost. So there's that. There's that little bit of good news. Kathy Hochul won that race despite that's a massive
really
money for a
about
governor race. $11 million. I mean,
they saw an opportunity.
Yeah,
they really, they were good at finding an opportunity, and they came really close. And they should not have come that close in New York. So, yeah, that was a nail biter.
I feel like that. This is a good time to also mention that, like, the whole fight over redistricting in New York meant that, like, Democrats actually lost a few seats that they could have won for the House in New York, a Democratic stronghold, because they wouldn't go to the mat on redistricting there. So, I don't know. It's frustrating. I think that it's frustrating to see Republicans get away with rampant gerrymandering, and then Democrats kind of mess it up every time.
Well, the thing is, I feel like the Democrats, when it comes to things like gerrymandering and voter suppression, they're kind of like, we're going to play the long game, not realizing the Republicans are the ones playing the long game here. It's kind of like, oh, we're going to, the whole impeach him at the ballot box shit. Remember that? You can't really do that when you're voter suppressed. You can't really do that when you've been disenfranchised.
Yeah. Exactly. So I feel like, I don't know. I feel like the fact that, that so many House seats in New York went to Republicans should be a real wake up call to the Democratic Party that, they cannot sleep even on states that they think they have locked up, that, politics as usual is not working, and that they are continuing to get their asses handed to them on the long game.
I mean, seriously.
So, that's a bummer. Also, I do want to note that the amount of money that was spent on that governor race, again, $11 million for the Republican guy, has been called unprecedented in New York. That is an insane amount of money to spend on a governor's race.
Imagine what that money just could have done for climate action, though.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And also, I just want to say, too, just because it didn't work this time doesn't mean that they won't be back with more money next time. Because guess what? Whereas the Democrats are like, oh, we lost, never spend money on that again. The Republicans are like, keep funding it until we win.
Exactly. Because the long game.
That's right. Yeah. So, yeah. He actually, Lauder is the guy who paid for the successful redistricting lawsuit that resulted in more neutral maps, reshaped the congressional map in New York, and made it more Republican friendly. Fuck this guy.
Yeah.
And let's all remember his name. Write it down. And he's not alone, unfortunately. There was also a guy named Richard Uihlein. He's the CEO of Uihlein Packaging.
Oh no.
He donated $67 million in this cycle.
Oh my God.
$67 million. Yeah. So, he was backing Ron Johnson in Wisconsin, Rand Paul in Kentucky, Ron DeSantis in Florida, Blake Masters. He also backed Ted Budd. So, a lot of those were wins, by the way. So, Yeah.
Amy, I just looked up who the Estee Lauder companies are, and I'm just going to go need to go cry somewhere.
Oh, no.
They own Smashbox, which makes my favorite lip stain. They own MAC. They own Dr. Jart. They own Bobby Brown.
No way.
And Bumble and Bumble.
Wow.
Sad day.
Well,
sad day.
It's a sad day.
Yep.
It is a sad, sad day.
Wait, so did he like break off from the family fortune and make his own doing this? Or like, are there other people at Estee Lauder who are like actually running the company and better than him and he's not profiting from it anymore?
I don't know about like who's involved in the company, but I do know that Ronald's brother is actually a big Democratic donor. So that sounds like a fun Thanksgiving this year.
Yeah, I got a feeling they don't really fuck with each other at holidays.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So, maybe you can keep buying Smashbox and think, well, this is going to the good brother. Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, Richard Uihlein, $67 million. That is insane to me.
That is insane.
That is an incomprehensible amount of money for one person to be putting into an election.
That is an economy. That's not a donation.
It is. It is. Yeah. He also funded a bunch of attack ads against Warnock, against Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers, and against Johnson's opponent in Wisconsin, of course, Mandela Barnes. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sounds like sounds like he's tied to all the races that are about crime and punishment. Yeah. That's right. We also have, so again, let's remember his name, Richard Uihlein, spelled Uihlein. His company is Uline, Uline. Yeah. Oy.
Yep. There's also, of course, Peter Thiel, who we have talked about before.
Your fave.
He was, he was J.D. Vance's primary backer in Ohio. A lot of people are talking about this as Peter Thiel basically buying a Senate seat in Ohio. Like, that's how much money he spent. But thankfully, he also was backing Blake Masters in Arizona along with Uihlein, and Blake Masters is definitely not going to win that race. So he's like several points behind. So, he only won one Senate seat, not two, I guess.
So he's got a bunker in New Zealand and a Senate seat in Ohio. All the bases are covered.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's true. I also want to talk about Steven Schwartzman. He's the CEO of Blackstone, which is one of the largest private equity firms in the world. Not to be confused with BlackRock, a different financial organization. Kind of similar, but different. Schwartzman is a big supporter of Amazon rainforest destruction.
Oh, there was a twist at the end of that. Okay.
Yeah. He also invests in a bunch of fossil fuels. But today we're talking about him because he was the third largest individual donor to Republican objectors to the 2020 election. And this year he donated tens of millions of dollars to Republican PACs, including the ones that were supporting Ron Johnson, J.D. Vance, Lisa Murkowski in Alaska, Dr. Oz, and your favorite, Herschel Walker.
He's not my favorite.
I know. He also recently had 8 climate protesters arrested outside of his swanky apartment building in New York.
What was the charge? Critical infrastructure? You know what? I should call the cops on Exxon for disturbing the peace and see how that goes.
That would actually be interesting. I feel like, why not?
I don't call the cops for a million reasons, but I might for that. I'm petty enough.
Anyway, okay, he was apparently because they were blocking the entrance to his apartment building.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I guess if you're having a protest, back it up a few feet on the sidewalk. Or Steven Schwartzman might be calling to have you arrested.
I guarantee he would call the cops any fucking way. And they would come because he probably pays for the cops. So,
okay, so to run down our list here, it's Ronald Lauder, Richard Uihlein, Steven Schwartzman, and Peter Thiel. Remember those names? I feel like we should be accusing Republican protesters of like cashing Uihlein checks or cashing Thiel checks, the way that that the right accuses climate protesters of just cashing Soros checks.
yeah, we should definitely at least like remember these names and connect these dots because they like bleed together. So
they absolutely do.
Yeah.
Gross.
In other news, what do lawyers eat for a snack?
My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
You are not going to get this.
I don't know. All I can think of is shit. And I know it's not that.
The answer is trial mix.
Trial mix. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Hot Take is brought to you by Haya. Typical children's vitamins are basically candy in disguise. They honestly, on average, have 2 teaspoons of sugar. 2 teaspoons. Lots of unhealthy chemicals and a bunch of other gummy junk that growing kids should probably not be eating. Unfortunately, that's also why a lot of kids, mine, won't take other vitamins because the usual ones are so candy-like that it's hard to get them to take other vitamins. And that's why I was so thrilled to find Haya. Haya is a pediatrician-approved, super-powered, chewable vitamin. Kind of tastes and has the texture of Smarties. So they totally love them, but they do not have all of that sugar and gross gummy stuff. They're non-GMO, they're vegan, they're dairy-free, allergy-free, gelatin-free, nut-free, and don't contain any other gross stuff you might not want in your vitamins. They do contain lots of nutritional benefits for kids. They also come in these really cool little glass jars. So you get the jars initially. They send a bunch of stickers that your kids can use to decorate them. And then they just send refills every month after that.
Sounds good.
Yeah, they're, again, also very cute. Like the packaging is super cute. They taste good, so the kids will eat them. They're great. Also, they have a subscription, so I don't have to remember to buy them every month, which is nice. We've worked out a special deal with Haya for their best-selling children's vitamin. You can get 50% off your first order. That's 50, half off. To claim this deal, you have to go to hayahealth.com/hot. This deal is not available on their regular website. Go to hayahealth.com/hot and get your kids the full body nourishment they need to grow into healthy adults.
Healthy adults who vote. Hot Take is brought to you by Idealist.org. Have your Sunday scaries turned into Monday melancholies and too bad it's only Tuesdays? It's time for you to visit Idealist.org to search thousands of jobs you'll love. You deserve to find work that earns you a paycheck and helps build a better world. Over the last 25 years, Idealist.org has helped millions of people find jobs with purpose, featuring jobs at nonprofits, socially conscious companies and businesses hiring for socially responsible positions, Idealist.org can help you ditch the Sunday scaries for good. Want advice on how to succeed in your career? No matter where you work, the Idealist.org career advice blog offers everything you need to know about standing out after submitting your resume, acing the interview, managing up, and achieving work-life balance. Career advice from Idealist.org will make sure you're prepared to chart a course through the career you've always dreamed about. So forget the gig economy and drop the daily grind. Go to idealist.org/work and apply for your dream job today. Life is short. Love your job.
Another pitch for folks to send in their questions to hottake@crooked.com. We need them. We're doing a mailbag episode. Can't do it without a mailbag.
Yeah. And a bag full of mail.
Yeah. If you are confused about anything from dad jokes to...
Just ask us whatever, okay? You listen to the show. You know the shit we talk about. Ask us your questions. If we don't know the answer, we'll make it up.
Yeah, or we'll ask someone who might know.
Amy might. I'll make it up.
Send it to hottake@crooked.com. Mary, let's leave the U.S. for a few minutes here and talk about what's happening internationally on climate, which of course is the 27th Conference of the Parties. This is the UN annual climate negotiations that are happening in Egypt right now. They kicked off this week.
They did. They're calling this one Africa's COP, and which is interesting to me because not too long ago there was one in Morocco, and I don't understand why that wasn't Africa's COP. And why would Africa's COP be held in one of the most repressive states in Africa for activism, and also in a petro state? That doesn't make sense to me.
I know. I know.
There's
a lot about this COP that's not making sense.
It's not curling over. But yeah, we were talking earlier about the just lack of journalists that went to COP, and you were saying,
Yeah, it is. It's noticeable. Like, I don't know. I knew a bunch of people that were going last year.
In the bigger height of the pandemic, I might add.
That's right. And none of the people that I knew that were going last year went this year. I can't say that I know a single reporter who's on the ground there right now. Like, everyone I know who's writing about it is doing it from here, which, like, I'm not sure how much that really matters. Like, you can absolutely cover what's happening from here. And it's way more important that the negotiators are there than journalists. But still, it's a little bit like, okay.
Well, it makes me question all of these big commitments we've heard from news outlets about we're covering climate as the story of our time. And they're skipping COP, and not only COP, but Africa's COP. Right? Like, this is supposed to be the one where, like, at least 30 countries are like, you know what? I can't do this debt and climate change at the same time, so I'm not doing the debt no more. That seems like a big thing.
Yeah.
Like, this is a COP where they're really going to talk about loss and damages, aka reparations. And there's just like a dearth of journalists covering it. I feel like that sends a pretty powerful and pretty clear signal about what's important and what's not.
Definitely. I've been feeling that a lot about the climate investments just this year in general. I am consistently having the experience of editors on Climate Desk being like completely overwhelmed. Like, they're so short staffed, they don't have enough time. And I'm hearing this from other climate journalists too, that like all of a sudden they're like, like, it's taking me 2 or 3 weeks to get an edit back because, like, no one is staffed up. Which I'm like, what happened here? And then, I do think that, yes, it's more expensive to send someone to Egypt than it is to send someone to Glasgow.
For sure.
Especially from New York, so like, definitely that is coming into play. But like, this is an important COP, not just because of the conversations around loss and damages, but also like, I feel like this is the way that the way that the Africa's COP thing is playing out is really like a lot of
African countries and global South countries in particular arguing for an extended timeline on fossil fuel development. And this is like a real, it's a real dangerous narrative. Like it's really, there's like these two tracks, right? You have loss and damages happening, and then you have a bunch of countries arguing and also framing it as a justice argument that global South countries should get a longer time to develop and use fossil fuels. That is all happening in the context of the price for gas being, at global highs, and a lot of African leaders saying, "Hey, we should get to cash in on this." Right? They're calling it the dash for gas right now, and I think it's really like, I don't know. It's like a time where we really need journalists who understand enough of the context there to kind of unpack that. And look at it and say, look, should global South countries be forced to rapidly transition off of fossil fuels and leave it in the ground when global North countries didn't? No, that seems patently unfair.
Right.
However, this idea that like we can kind of, oh, it's okay, we can just like fudge the math a little bit and let these folks like make some money over here, and also like, why aren't we connecting the dots on these conversations? Right? If you want global South countries to benefit from fossil fuel money, I have a great idea for you. Take it from the fucking oil companies and the sovereign wealth funds that are entirely funded by oil money.
Brilliant.
Cough, cough, Norway.
Brilliant.
Like it doesn't have to come in the form of a bunch of US and European companies actually profiting from the oil and gas in African countries. Like that is not a justice solution.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I feel like, right now is the time when we really need journalists to be kind of holding people's hand and walking them through this, because it's very complicated.
Exactly.
And it is very nuanced. And I don't think that we're going to get that kind of coverage of COP, and we need it.
Super unfortunate. And I'll just say about the lack of journalists attending COP, that's not the fault of the journalists themselves, and often not the fault of the editors themselves. They're just, for folks who don't work in media, there's a lot of decisions that people whose names we know, who write the stories and the bylines and all of that, like they don't really have a lot of say over that a lot of the time. So I don't want to say this to say like, oh, the journalists who went last year suddenly don't care, because it wasn't their decision.
That's right.
So just to clarify that. And I'll also plug that friend of the show, former guest on the show, Akshat Rathi is at COP, and you should follow him on Twitter and follow his work.
Very
on
good
Bloomberg,
follow.
To get some coverage of it. And we'll be watching for more journalists at COP, and hopefully, we'll get some good stories out of this, because it's not over.
Yeah.
How long does it go? Like 2 weeks?
Yeah. Another shout out. I don't think she's there, but Kate Aronoff wrote a great piece in the New Republic about the plan that John Kerry has gone to COP with, which, surprise, surprise, is not loss and damages.
Word?
It's this idea that no one can really afford their loss and damages commitments, and that instead we should be paying for adaptation and transition with a carbon market. So he announced this morning. It's Wednesday morning. He announced it this morning, and is, he's just very committed to the idea that market solutions are the way to go. And that is what he's pushing at COP. So we'll see how people react to that.
Yep. We will absolutely see how that goes.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to need a whole new wave of snacks to get through the end of COP.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah.
What's it called when you share your fruit snacks, Amy?
I don't know. God, I'm so bad at these. What is it?
Welch redistribution.
Ooh, I like that. I have to say, I do also like Welch's fruit snacks. I've stolen them from my kids' lunches a couple of times.
You are the fucking hamburglar.
All right. We talked about all the billionaire political donors, but now it's time to have our first ever repeat billionaire burn.
Yep, let's do it. Our first one, and it's well deserved. And I don't think this person is very different from the other billionaires we talked about in the sense that he absolutely uses his money to influence politics because this motherfucker bought Twitter. And I think a lot of people think he's running it into the ground. And I don't think he's running into it. Like they kind of think it's because of, he's just really bad at business. No, I think this motherfucker knows exactly what we're doing. We're talking about Amy's Twitter bae, Elon Musk.
Oh, Elon. Oh, Elon. Yeah. Yeah. So he woke up the other morning and decided to tweet that quote unquote independently minded voters should vote Republican because it's better to have the House or Congress and the White House be different political parties.
Yeah. Let's start there. Okay. So I think a lot of folks kind of lampoon this tweet as oh my God, that's such a stupid idea. Yeah, I don't think Elon actually thinks that that's how you strike a balance of power. I think this man wants fascism for real. And that's why he wants people to vote for Republicans because Elon, I don't think is stupid. I think he's craven and I think that he is a fascist. And after this episode comes out, I'm probably not going to have a Twitter account. So it's been real, y'all.
Yeah. I mean, I think that he does not think that there should be any checks on the power of wealth.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
He doesn't he's been very anti-journalist ever since journalists started to actually do their jobs when covering Tesla and criticized him sometimes.
Yeah.
He could not handle that. When stories started coming out about him, not treating workers well and being very anti-union and then, skirting a bunch of environmental regulations and all of that stuff. When it went from being Teslas are amazing and Elon is a god to just covering him like any other billionaire and any other company, he lost his shit. And he has been trying, even, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, he had this idea for what was essentially a Yelp for journalists that he was calling Pravda, where it was you could vote and people would decide whether this person was credible or not and give them a rating. And if they had a low rating, then
you knew it was an uncredible journalist.
Yeah. And their stories would show up, lower in the results of Google and Twitter and all of these things. So I feel like buying Twitter and turning it into a platform for fascism is kind of checking a lot of boxes for Elon.
Yeah, he's wanted to disrupt truth for a long time, disrupt reality. Right. And so let's talk about some of the changes he's made now that he's part of Twitter or owner of Twitter. Yeah. One of the most famous ones, or infamous rather, is he's instituted a process for people to purchase verification. That's and right. So you pay $8 a month and you get a blue check. And, right. He's kind of defended this as democratizing the verification process.
Yeah, exactly. It's a democracy where you can pay for rights.
Right, because that's democratic, because everyone has money, Amy.
Yeah,
of course a billionaire thinks that.
So many things that he says, it's it's totally outside of the realm of possibility for you that some people don't have money, or that people who don't have enough money. It's not because they deserve to not have money or whatever. He's very into that whole. This is such a Silicon Valley libertarian mind worldview in general, right? That anyone who doesn't have money, it's because they either didn't work hard enough or weren't talented or smart enough, right? So
exactly.
Fuck them.
Or they didn't steal good enough.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, he has also like muddled this up quite a bit in recent days. So like first it was like all the blue checks are going to be gone, and if you want one, you have to pay. Then, and people were like, what? And he was going to charge $20 a month. Then he was like, okay, what about $8 a month? And we're going to leave the blue checks that are there in place. But we're going to let new people buy them, and there won't be any way to distinguish between them. And then it became, now Twitter is going to have a quote unquote official label that it will apply to some accounts, but it's unclear how that is all going to work. It's just
I
like,
didn't hear all this.
it's like, I don't know. And then he keeps, of course, like he's, as part of his whole like, oh, this is democratizing it. He likes to big himself up as a free speech warrior, right? But like he's been liberally suspending and banning people who, you know, say mean things about him.
Or impersonate him, right? And like are very clearly not impersonating him.
That's right.
But to go back to the blue check thing, so I've never had a blue check.
Yeah.
You're like a journalist, so you have one.
Yeah.
Is it really that different? Do you get caviar or something?
No. I have a blue check because my boss like 15 years ago verified the whole newsroom. You know what I mean? It's like, it wasn't like I definitely know that like there are people who see it as a marker of prestige. There's actually like, I've been dabbling in Mastodon, which is like this competitor to Twitter that a lot of people are checking out in case Twitter folds. And they very specifically don't have any kind of a check mark thing. And it's funny because some people try to put a check mark in their username to make it look like more important or whatever. But a lot of people on there are like, yeah, we didn't want to have this like division amongst users because Mastodon was really built with community in mind. And specifically, it was a lot of like marginalized communities and the disabled community in particular that like weighed in on a lot of the features on Mastodon. So like there are a lot of rules in place that make it much less toxic than Twitter. So anyway, I'm like, you know, it's interesting because Elon claims that he wanted to get rid of the quote unquote caste system on Twitter and hierarchy and elitist in the media and this and that. But like, there's already an example of something that has done that and has done it in a way that works, you know. And like instead of doing that, he's sort of just causing lots of new problems.
Yeah. I also heard that he fired damn near everyone who makes Twitter work.
That's right. He fired a bunch of people, and then he was trying to hire a bunch of them back because he realized he actually needed them.
Oh my God. I can't imagine what those like comeback emails are like. Like, baby, please.
I know.
I didn't mean it.
He fired the entire human rights team, which seems bad for
that does seem bad. Is
future.
He trying to get them back?
Not that I've heard of. No.
I haven't heard about that.
Yeah. And then he also is like unblocking and unmuting himself from people's accounts, which I find hilarious. I'm like, is he going to get rid of those options? Like, is that, I don't know, is that part of his quote unquote free speech push? Is like, you have to listen to everyone. You can't mute anyone anymore. Who knows?
Or you can't mute me. But you had him muted, right?
I did. And now he's not. So I'm just like, oh my God.
You know what? I'm going to try muting him and see what happens. You know, and also I'm pretty sure that my favorite pastime of cyberbullying fossil fuel companies is probably gonna not be allowed soon. So I should probably like get that in while I can. And
yes,
I would take it as a little bit of a badge of honor if that's why I got kicked off Twitter.
Yes.
Oh God. I saw someone else tweet that like after he fired all of those people and made them like come up with a way to pay for verification in a week, they were like, I get why the Tesla's set on fire now.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
Makes sense.
Totally. Also, so there were some interesting things coming out this week too about how, because he was threatening to buy Twitter, it actually made the company less financially viable. So by the time he took it over, it was like worth less because of his affiliation to it, which is really funny because like that's kind of what he's been using as his justification for doing, things like charging for verification. Is like, well, we need to get, Twitter's revenue up. And it's like, if you had just left it alone, it would have been okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And to go back to the layoffs.
Yeah.
So he fired and disbanded the whole workforce in Ghana.
Oh my God.
And Ghana was the only African office that Twitter had. And none of the employees are being offered severance or other protections that the American employees are getting.
Surprise, because he's like the fucking worst on labor rights across the board. And he's a fucking racist.
Yep.
Yeah.
Reminder that this man is from South Africa and was very, very much profited off of apartheid and emerald mining.
Yeah, he has said that he didn't see Black people growing up in South Africa. So that just kind of tells you about the context there.
I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you pull that off, honestly.
Yeah. So I think it's like, I don't know. It's not good. And the thing is like initially a lot of people were sort of like, oh, this sucks because, Twitter was a place where I hung out with my friends or I found out about news or whatever. I think like the broader implications are really, it's very bad for information, right? And organizing. It's very bad for climate folks in particular, sharing climate stories, organizing protests, all of that stuff. Like a lot of that. Twitter was a real hub for, and I think a lot of folks are, justifiably worried about that going away.
Yep. I don't know. I think that we talk a lot. I've tweeted about this already, but I think we talk a lot of shit about Twitter being this hellhole and this, really awful place.
Mm-hmm.
And it can definitely be that.
Yeah.
But it's also a place where progressive voices come and can be heard, right?
That's right.
You don't have to already be endorsed by any other sort of site. You can get your ideas out there into the public square. And while our public discourse is broken, it largely does happen on Twitter. And getting rid of Twitter does not fix our public discourse. It further breaks and fractures it, right? So I think the point of destroying Twitter is to push us further into our echo chambers and further into our silos, right?
Definitely.
I know that I've learned a shit ton about things like prison abolition and climate justice and so many other issues on Twitter. And to get rid of that, I think is a very calculated move to hurt the progressive movement.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So not a clown, kind of an evil genius, and we're not into it.
Yeah, and we should take him seriously.
Yeah.
I don't think making fun of him is exactly what he wants. That's exactly how he knows he's getting away with it in broad fucking daylight. I just don't see any of this as funny, and I don't see any of it as accidental.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. So fuck Elon and drink water. I don't know. I don't know how else to say that.
Fuck Elon, eat snacks.
Yep.
Holler at us, nuts.com. We're
Yeah, seriously. I could hawk the shit out of some nuts.com. It's a great site.
Hot Take is a Crooked Media production. It's produced by Ray Pang and mixed and edited by Jordan Cantor. Our music is by Vasilis Fotopoulos. Leo Duran is our senior producer, and our executive producers are Mary Anais Hegler, Michael Martinez, and me, Amy Westervelt. Special thanks to Sandy Gerard, Ari Schwartz, Kyle Seglin, and Charlotte Landez for production support, and to Amelia Montooth for digital support. You can follow the show on Twitter at Real Hot Take, sign up for our newsletter at hottakepod.com, and subscribe to Crooked Media's video channel at youtube.com/crookedmedia.